Welcome to DarkSideAdventures, an 18 and older, not safe for work podcast where we explore the dark side of sex, the world of kink, fetish, and BDSM lifestyle. Is it playing?
It is. Can you not hear it?
No.
Ah, shoot. Okay.
I was like sitting here waiting. I was like,
Maybe I have to pull it from here. Hang on. And I'm sitting here like jamming to the music. Okay. Man, thought I was being cool. I guess I went at it the wrong way. Okay, let's try it this way. Maybe.
Welcome to DarkSideAdventures, an 18 and older, not safe for work podcast where we explore the dark side of sex,
do it yet. We'll have to
the world of kink, fetish.
You can get like a sound bot, and the sound bot will play it like while we're both in chat.
Okay. That'll work. Because, yeah, I just tried to put it into OBS as well, and that, no. It's supposed to be like halfway through. Okay. Just kidding. I was trying to be fancy, but it's not working.
I had like, can I do it?
Maybe.
Maybe. Hold on.
Okay. While he's figuring that out, welcome everybody. This is DarkSideAdventures, week 4, episode 6, I think? Week 3. Oh, shoot. I think it's week 3. Week 3, episode 6. That makes sense, because 6 divided by 2 is 3. Today we are talking about negotiations, safety, and limits in kink. Before we get started on that, we just wanted to let everybody know that today is National Homemade Soup Day. So enjoy yourself some homemade soup. So I actually did enjoy some homemade soup today. Well, I don't know. Would you consider chili to be soup? He's walked away, so I'm not getting an answer. Or he's just not paying attention. That's possible too. I consider it soup. It was white chili. It was delicious. My friend Carolyn came over the other day, and we made white chili, so it was leftover white chili. It was delicious.
Sounds good. Yeah, sorry guys. I'll have to do it next time because it's going to take too long if I try and do it. But I heard you welcome everybody to the show, so
I sure did.
No need for me to say, I guess, much else, but welcome, of course.
Welcome. Did you enjoy some homemade soup?
Oh man, it was happy National Homemade Soup Day. I have not gotten any soup, but like bacon and potato. Oh my god, that's just my favorite.
Delicious.
And I used to always get it, and I know it's not healthy, but I used to always get it at IHOP.
Oh yeah.
And man, they add the sour cream and the cheese.
Yum.
Except for I think they're starting to close now, so that's a sad day, but they were still delicious.
Yes. I need to find
But what
out.
about? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I need to find out. My grandma, my mom's mom, growing up, she would make the most delicious clam chowder soup. But she changed the recipe every single time she made it. So the recipe is like no more. Like nobody really knows how she did it. So I need to find a recipe and start fiddling with it because that sounds like heaven.
She was holding out.
Yes. Well, that's, and maybe maybe that's how she learned it, because that's how my mom cooks too, and that, like, I've noticed that's how I start cooking too. Like, we'll find a recipe and like, oh, that's good, but I think it would be better if and then we change like 4 or 5 things.
I mean, that's the best part about things, is being able to add your own little kicker, spice to it.
Exactly.
Man.
Exactly.
But I mean, homemade soup is wonderful. Hopefully, this week, hopefully everybody had a little homemade soup. If you didn't, you can get you some.
Yes.
Kind of makes me want ramen, which is, I guess, a mixture of both. But
I've been wanting ramen for a while.
Man,
it's like delicious. That is also on my list to learn how to make. Because yum.
With you gotta hit the pot and the boat and all the vegetables and
yum. Yeah, it'll be delicious when I learn how to make it.
Yeah. But this week has been kind of, I guess, weird for everybody. What's your week been like?
Mine's been long. I worked 16 hours yesterday and got home. So you and I talked at like 9 o'clock, and I had 2 stores left. Mm-hmm. And so I got to the one store, and I found out after you and I hung up talking that I was the one that did these 2 stores last week. So they had been, because I put magazines out, and we put new magazines out every week. So I had done these stores for somebody last week. So I had spent the time to clean them up and get rid of all the old magazines that were from like 2018. And so I did those.
I'm sure that was pleasant.
Oh, it was so nice. It was so nice. I did it in 45 minutes, which is a big difference. Like, each store took about 45 minutes. The second store was a little bit longer just because the store was bigger. But I'd been averaging 2.5 hours for the other stores I did yesterday or so. So it was a big difference. It was lovely.
Out there, it was like you're running through the store, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. And then I made a silly mistake. I love listening to true crime. And I was listening to one true crime podcast that was talking about murders and disappearances in Flint, Michigan, which is where I was all day. So there I am driving in the dark back roads of Flint, Michigan on my way to a different store at 9 o'clock at night, listening to how this person, who hasn't been caught yet, abducts females from their cars. And it freaks myself out.
I hope you switched podcasts, immediately.
I sure did. I was like, oh, I'm sketched out. Okay, let's try some music. And I switched to music, and then that didn't work, so I called my sister, and I was like, help? I feel a little bad. I interrupted her date night, but not bad enough, because they were just watching a movie at home.
Man. Well, I mean, I'm glad glad nothing happened to you. Make sure you, I don't know what the laws are out there, but make sure you stay strapped, as they say. Anything good happen? Anything bad happen? I mean, besides work, of course.
Nothing crazy. I was telling the listeners, and I don't know if you heard, but I made white chili soup. Well, I don't know if you consider chili soup, but I'm calling it soup because that's what I ate today.
Was it a little runny?
Just a little bit. So I made it with my friend Carolyn, and she does not like. You're supposed to like mash up some of the beans into a paste, and it'll thicken it. But that texture like grosses her out so bad. So we didn't. So it was still really good, but it was just a little looser and more liquidy than if we had mashed up the bean paste. So, yeah.
Beans do a good job, don't they?
They do. I love beans. I ate pears today, which is like my absolute favorite.
We're trying to get healthy, guys.
Well, and I also made a cake and ate some of the cake batter, so no, not really.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna get some Oreos after this. So
Oh, I want Oreos.
I know it's so bad.
Oh, I was very good and did not buy any Oreos, even though they had tons of displays of the Lady Gaga Oreos, the pink ones and green ones that I kind of wanted to buy to try.
I haven't seen the pink ones. I've only seen the green ones. They even started selling the green ones like in the gas station whenever I go for like my morning coffee.
Yeah. Maybe they're not pink and I just think they're pink. I don't know. They're very colorful, just like Lady Gaga typically is. So,
Good old Lady Gaga.
yes.
I mean,
What about you? What was your week like?
I don't know if like the work has gotten harder or I've just gotten slower. I don't know I don't know what it is this past like couple of days, but I don't know. I've been like feeling work, but I haven't really been feeling work. I mean, obviously, like it's still kind of like a new-ish job at like a newish company, but everything's good. I mean, as far as like the work, I can't really complain. So, like I said, maybe it's just me, but
Could be. Is it colder out there? Could be the cold weather. Blame it on the cold weather. I do a lot.
I mean, I'm not. I'm not trying to blame it on the cold, but I mean, it has been. It's actually been kind of warm. So, if anything, it's been kind of a shift. Maybe the warmth is giving me too much leeway.
Maybe.
But other than that, it's been a good week. Of course, like doing stocks and stuff, everything's up, so that's always nice.
Sounds nice.
And I started, or at least I'm trying to eat better, and then eventually like go back to the gym because I figure if I'm doing one good thing, aka the podcast, I might as well complete the system. Which last but not least, like I've been kind of pondering the book club, so don't think we haven't forgot about that.
Just trying to figure out the best way to do it.
Yeah, like I want to. Okay, here's my thought process. Everybody go hear it now anyway. So I thought about getting on Twitch and like maybe it would be like Twitch like after hours because I'm up at weird hours sometimes. Usually past Coco's bedtime, and that's normally on the weekends. But I figured I would do something with the book club where after hours I would play an hour of the audiobook and I'd kind of just be sitting in there with everybody. So it's kind of like we're all listening. If you
That would be cool.
want to hear it. Yeah. But I'd have to figure out how I would do it because I mean if the book is going to take like, for instance like 5 hours to read, we would have to at least read, like an hour an hour every time. Or some of the book clubs might be pushed back, or maybe I'll go like an hour and a half and do like a couple of breaks, so at least we can all finish.
Mm-hmm.
But
or maybe even have to think about like copyright and if it's allowed. So
yeah, that's the thing too. I mean, if I can find it on YouTube, then at that point there's not really copyright because like we'd all just be sitting watching the video, which would be an audiobook. But anyway, that's what I've been thinking about, so I'll keep everybody posted whenever I make up my mind.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm.
We all know how much I love to read and books and yeah.
Well, of course I was gonna run it by you.
Books, but
yeah, I was gonna run it by you as soon as I had everything like obviously like put together, so it'd make more sense. But I figure I'd at least like give you my thought process so far.
Give us a teaser. I love it. I love it. I love the way you're taking your baby. It's handling. Sounds good.
Sure. This baby is like it's like those boxcar kids, but like one of my wheels is like all. That's what it feels like. I'm just driving this car with 3 wheels. So, excuse me as we try and get the 4th wheel back on while we're obviously driving it. So.
I feel like that's how it's always going to be, just knowing us, though.
Yeah. there's always something new or always something to get. So I'm hoping, like, I mean, it's obviously like a long-term goal, but newer equipment so I can get a more quiet computer to get like a better sound at least, or I don't know. If we go big time, can we get a studio?
I think we definitely need studios if we go big time. And I would love a better computer so I can edit better.
So
Definitely need studios.
That's them long-term goals. But other than that, I mean, for tonight, actually, let me start over. So over the past week, or I guess last week, last show, technically last show, Sunday.
Last show.
We kind of went heavy, and we kind of talked about it being already going to be a heavy week, and this obviously like ends the heaviness. This is the second, but probably the most important and the heaviest load. Some would say it's starter items or beginner items. Others say it's maybe we can even call them pillars if we want to get technical.
Yeah.
Of BDSM, but we'll more than scratch the surface, but we're not gonna go too deep.
Exactly.
So, girl, where do we even start? Like,
right? Well, I say we start with limits, because without limits, you can't safely know what you're going to do and you can't negotiate. So I say we start with limits, then go to negotiations and then safety? Or do you think we should just do limits, safety, negotiations? It's the last two I'm struggling with.
Well, we might as well go down the line, kind of like how we already have it. So we can do we'll do limits, safety, and then negotiations.
Perfect. Before we jump right in, my other points, I remembered my points from last week that I was going to put in there, and my other points can wait, but this one I just want to throw out there. When you go to a munch and you order food or a drink or whatever it may be, don't skip out on the bill. The munch is not paying for you. You need to pay for yourself.
That's actually a pretty big one.
So I wanted to throw that out there because I know some people who think that the people putting on the munch is going to pay for everything. No, it's not. That's not how that works. Unless they specifically tell you, hey, I'm going to pay for everything. Don't just assume. Pay for what you order. Okay. Fair. And now we can move on. I just didn't put that in last week, and I wanted to throw it in there.
No, 100%. That was a good one to actually throw in.
Yes. Okay. So, on to limits. Do we want to pull that article up, or do we just want to talk on it?
We can, since there's only 5 talking points. How about we pull it up and it's the submissive guides.
Okay. So.
And then the rest of them we don't really.
This one or the other one? No, the submissive guide. Okay, here we go. So, I say before we get started in this, we have given you guys. Let me show them kind of to you. There's this one I feel is the best one for a limits list. It goes through a lot of things, a lot of different types of kinks, cuffs, leather, metal, gags, cloth, rubber, tape, phallic ring, ball, mouth bits, suspension, horizontal, inverted, spanking, flogging, sexual activities. So it goes through a lot of these, and you can say, oh, I don't want to do that at all, period, no ifs, ands, or buts, which is a hard limit, or I might do that one with the right person, or I would do that one. A very common one that's kind of a soft limit for a lot of people is swallowing cum, because nobody really likes the taste of it. But does their partner get pleasure out of it? Sure. So if I have to, I will. At least for me personally. So this one's a really good list with a lot of really good activities listed on there. You can There's always going to be more, but that'll give you a good start.
Yeah, and shout out. Oh, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Oh, I was just gonna ended it there. That gives you a good start to your limit list.
Agreed. And shout out Bad Girls Bible. There's like, before I had even started this podcast, like even like reading up on some BDSM, I promise you, like I have gone through, many of her articles. So, or their articles, excuse me. Let me not be biased here. Many of their articles over at Bad Girls Bible. So once again, most of the credit obviously goes out to them, but we were just kind of essentially relinking it and sharing it because it is a good one.
Absolutely. I realized as I was looking at the articles earlier, we didn't really find like a limits list. I'll find a good one and I'll make sure that gets put in the descriptions as well. But this will give you a start until I find that good one to give you. But so that's the Bad Girl Bible's checklist for that one's more for negotiations, but it's also a good start for limits and your interests. But on that point, we are going to go to Submissive Guide. This one is an article that's entitled Everything That's Wrong with Your BDSM Limits List and How to Fix It. Well, hello, Ad.
No, Ad, no.
I don't want to read that right now. Thanks, though. This article is written by Luna KM.
So thank you, Luna, for blessing us with your skills here.
Absolutely, and I just love the look of their collar, and I just love it. Anyways, I love how it's watercolor. Moving on, got distracted by it. So this article reads, limits are those boundaries that we set for ourselves because of physical, emotional, mental, social, or psychological hesitations, morals, or values we want to uphold and dislike for some things. For most submissives, we put together a rudimentary limits list as soon as we know what BDSM is and how scary some of the things you see are to you. But most of us have problems with really making the limit list a full picture of what your boundaries are and tend to stick with play activities. And you'd be wrong to keep it in the dungeon. There's a huge variety of limits that you might want to consider if you are entering a DS relationship that is more than bedroom play. Being a novice submissive doesn't mean you can't be more specific with your boundaries and what you will accept, and not in a relationship. If you've had any sort of relationship at all before finding DS or BDSM, you will have limitations. You just need to find words for them.
Agreed.
Yes, and she goes on to list some issues with limit list. So,
some good.
Read the first one.
Yeah, no, I was gonna kind of just
comment. Sorry, I'm too excited.
Yeah. No, 100%. I was gonna start with number one and kind of just like flow over it, but also kind of talk about it as well.
Absolutely, that works.
So this one says you don't know your limits. Obviously, it says brand new to BDSM. It can be intimidating when somebody likes, myself says, go fill out a BDSM checklist to help you figure out your limits. Well, this is a good point right here. Start with what you know, right? If obviously, like it says here, you're interested in role play and your fantasies have your partners holding you down and calling you dirty names, list those things, some of the things you'd like to try. So everything that you've tried, maybe you've gone to, let's say, for instance, you got invited to a play party and, you've seen a couple things done, whether it be like, heavy hair pulling or maybe like, some pretty hard paddles, or even sometimes, it'd be soft ass or, bare ass, whatever you want to try. At least know those things that you're going to be ready for, and that you actually want to try and do. Do you want to comment on this here, Coco?
Yeah, I really like where you went with that. It's really true. And even if you haven't been to a play party or dungeon or anything like that, see the things that, you can. There's a lot of raunchy things in TV. There's your fantasies. There's porn. There's erotic writing. There's like all sorts of things that you can. Sex is all around you. And anything that strikes your fancy, be like, oh yeah, that's something I want to try, or anything that's like, oh no, I don't want to try. Put it on your list, because it is intimidating. Like, as you go through Bad Girls Bible checklist, or whatever checklist you go through, and you see all of these things, it's very, very intimidating. Like, I know when I was brand new to BDSM, like, I found a checklist and was like, that's a lot. I don't know. And it, like, I didn't fill it out. I was like, I can't do this. And so I got out of it. But it is, and there was a lot of things on there I didn't know what it was. And that's okay. You're going to learn as you go. And like I said last time, don't be afraid to admit that you haven't tried it, or you don't know what your limit on that is.
Yeah, no, I agree. And one of the rest of number one, it just kind of goes to, just things that you don't want. It's just as much as you write about the things that you do want. Make sure there's a list that you don't want. Here is kind of extreme, outside, but they're saying, do you eventually want to get married? Have kids? What were some of the problems in your past relationship? And the second half makes sense, but it says that you'd like to make a point to set a limit so it doesn't happen again. So if anything has happened in the past that has kind of deterred you from doing a certain act or using a certain weapon of mass destruction, then you at least want to list it and make it known, or at least things that you would do this time to fix it, to maybe get a different or better outcome. Maybe last time you went too hard, and maybe once again you're brand new. Maybe you should have went baby steps, like we always talk about in here. Is at least just taking baby steps to it instead of just going full out sprint. You don't know what you're doing. Take your time, learn, and then eventually it's something that you can do. But just the point to be made is make sure that you state what you do and you don't want.
Absolutely. I'd like this last little bit. It says, what are your preferences regarding safe sex, friends, alcohol and drugs, health and body modifications? Like, those are, especially in the BDSM lifestyle, those are things you want to know. Especially if you get a dynamic and you're aiming for TPE, which is total power exchange, then you want to make sure that your preferences, well, one, are going to match your partner's, but that you express them in the beginning so your partner's aware of them and can take that into consideration.
Well put. Number, I guess that leaves us kind of in the number 2.
Yeah.
Your limits are a list of play restrictions. I guess we kind of touched on that a little bit in number 1, but it says you poured through a BDSM checklist and feel that you've got a complete list of limits and boundaries to give a potential partner. But you're forgetting a very important point. The relationship isn't just play. You need to know what you'd like in a relationship with a DS or BDSM. Do you want love, affection, romance? What about having children or control in parenting? Do you have a specific sitcom addiction that you don't want messed with? How about with smoking cessation or weight loss? Do you like to go clubbing and don't want somebody telling you that you can't? This is actually a very good one.
I feel it's one people overlook a lot.
Oh, girl, I agree. Okay, I feel like I'm about to rant and I'm trying not to. So for this is very heavy, because if, let's say, I'm gonna say it from a dom point of view before I get to the submissives, but a dom point of view is, and I've learned this myself, that you can't want what you're not willing to give. Meaning, if you want a submissive with structure, you need to be structured.
Amen.
So with that being said, is all DS dynamics, right? Whenever I lost my train of thought here. Sorry, guys. I hate old age.
You're not even that old.
God. No, my point to be made is you have to be structured, and then with that, you have to kind of know where you're trying to lead the dynamic. So if, like she said, you want a total power exchange, that needs to be worked out as well as fully worked out. Oh, is it making noise? Am I okay?
You're okay now. There was a
Okay.
moment there.
Okay, sorry. I was trying to move the microphone to see if it would hear me. Hold on, let me move back. Let me move back. Okay. Coco, go ahead, because I'm gonna keep losing my train of thought here. I'm trying to put it together and it's not coming.
I can see where you're coming from, and I totally agree. Coming from a submissive standpoint, I don't want to be in a relationship with a dominant or a master who tells me one thing and then does the other. If they want me to be structured and take care of my health and do all of these things, then I want to be led by example. Now, I understand that everybody's human and everybody's gonna mess up, and that goes for submissives and masters and dominants and subs and whichever title you want to be on either side of the slash. So I understand those mistakes are going to happen, but if you don't practice what you preach, then why am I going to listen? Why should I want to listen?
I agree. So that kind of now I'm getting flashbacks to what I was supposed to say. So now with this structure, which is where I was going to go with this, wherever you're taking this relationship, once again, y'all got to talk about it. Is this just a dynamic? Is this going to flourish into a full-on relationship? Mm-hmm. Are you trying to actually, get married and let's say have this thing be a lifetime, relationship, or is it just kind of something where, you're doing it as, what do they call them, a casual, or are you doing it as an actual religion, which we were talking about doing a show on that, but yeah, so it's what do you actually want out of the the dynamic is what I was gonna go say.
Exactly. Well, that goes for more than just if you're going in a dynamic. If you're going to do pickup play, which is, I think we've explained before, where you go to a play party or a dungeon or chat with people and you pick up a play partner for the night, for the scene, then, and you're handing them this list of limits, there's more to be thought about than just be look, these are my limits. Yes, you want to discuss those, absolutely, but at the same time, you also want to be, I know as I've dove deeper into kink and BDSM, my limits change. So I have to be flexible to learning about new things, even if I think they're going to be on the hard list. And now, if it is an emotional trigger or something like that, then absolutely don't just dive into learning about that. Take your time. It may be something you never change your mind on, but be open to knowing what's beyond your list to play with.
Agreed. But just kind of finishing off the number 2 here with, as all of these things and more are part of your whole package of limits. So if the BDSM checklist overwhelms you at first, start painting a picture of what you want and need in a relationship and set up those boundaries first.
I really like that point.
Which brings us to number 3. Oh, man. Your limits are a carbon copy of someone else's.
I have seen this so many times, and it irks me.
You saw what? Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'll make my point in a minute.
Okay. You saw what you thought was an awesome list of limits from someone else's profile. And without really reading it through, you copied and used it for your own list. Oh, man. But there's a huge flaw. It's not yours. Thinking about your limits and boundaries is work and mental work you need to do for yourself. So you will likely have the unusual kids, animals, and dead people on your list. Those are commonly a given. So beyond that, just basically says do your own work when it comes to figuring out your boundaries. Go ahead, and I know you wanted to make a point.
I just, absolutely no one is going to be the same. Even if you're an identical twin, you are going to have different limits and boundaries than anybody else. Nobody's the exact same. Are they going to be similar? Absolutely. But if you see I have a friend who one of her hard limits is anything to do with Nickelback. And I think you know who that is. And so if you were to, say, take and copy her limits list, and Nickelback is your favorite, but because you read through it and you're like, oh, like that fits me, or hey, some of that sounds cool, copy paste, and Nickelback is your favorite band in the world, and you want to listen to them all day long, but suddenly you've said your hard limit is Nickelback. Like you need to take some more time to that. And now, is somebody else's limits a good jumping point? Sometimes. I know I find it really fascinating, and it really helps me to really sit down and consider somebody else's list, but I tweak it and change it to make it my own.
Do a little modification?
Yes.
Oh, man. I mean, for me, like, I haven't really even, like... I guess it hasn't really even been, like, a thing. I mean... just kind of listening to your stories, even the one from last time where it was about like the person that kept on like skill jumping is another way to put it, where they were talking about like, oh, I'm new to the BDSM community, and 2 weeks later they're like, oh yeah, I've been in here for like 8 years, blah blah blah. So kind of like I could see that kind of be a thing where it's like, you know, their list is, you know, changing, or, you know, copying somebody else's, obviously, to say they're, you know, a pro in, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, but that's really all I got on that.
And just remember, it's okay for your limits to change. I expect them to change. Not all of them, maybe, but I expect as you learn and grow and see more things that your limits are going to change because you're changing and growing as a person.
100%. I'll kind of just run through the rest of these. Okay, we're just gonna go ahead and skip down to number 4 right now, because I keep forgetting we have like 2 or 3 more articles to go. So. Your limits are too vague or too firm, and then I'll even tie them all together with, or I'll tie it with number 5, where it says you have too few or none at all. So your limits are too vague or too firm. For me, I would agree with that. You want to specify, and specification is everything. So let's just say, you know, it's like I was saying earlier with, like, you know, do you want it like, you know, soft impact, or do you want, you know, the bare impact, or do you want hard impact? Do you want, you know, you want the stingy? Do you want the thud? It's like you need to know what you really want. You can't just say impact. That's just too vague. There's too much into it. Exactly. Or even, you know, or even say like, let's say somebody likes intoxication, which that's its own thing. But say they like intoxication, and they like the forced intoxication. Well, you also gotta say how. It's like, well, are you gonna drink alcohol? I mean, I would hope so. Or how do you
is it going to be marijuana? Is it going to be alcohol? How intoxicated do you want to be? Is it going to be a different kind of intoxication?
Yeah, agreed. Like what are you looking for? Or maybe it's, in other words, maybe it's too firm. Like, okay, well, I can't do impact play unless I'm on a waterbed wearing my favorite tennis shoes right next to my favorite, stuffy bear with, The Office playing. It's like, hold on, like, now you're just making it too, it's just too specific. Or I guess if you want to go even like, firm, it's like, it has to, if you're going to do impact play, it can only be with this one specific toy or something like that. Like, that's almost a little too firm. I mean, I get it. Maybe it's, you don't, I can't even say maybe you don't like it. It's like, why would you even put it on the list then? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, and having a limit that's too firm is let me put it this way, having a soft limit that is too firm, you might as well just make it a hard limit. But it also, it makes it really hard to plan a scene around those limits. So if that is 100% absolutely, again, if that's 100% absolutely a limit you're going to stick to, great. But you need to be able to have that conversation. Why? With anyone you want to play with, because they're going to ask. So.
Agreed. And going to I guess the second part, which is you have too few or none at all. Like it's one thing, and I know we touched on this last week with the consensual and non-consent, where it's basically like I wouldn't say free for all, but you can do whatever you wanted. But instead, it's kind of like that, on the regular, where it's you have too few or none at all. It's always good to have limits. People are always going to push your limits, unless you're one of those people that really just like doesn't care, or you're a true slave. You at least have to have some limits. Like everybody has, standards and decency. Like, of course you're going to have a couple. So just make sure you write it on there, because if you don't, one, your top or your dominant could be doing something, and I'm saying this just from like a submissive standpoint, of course. Like the top or the dominant could be doing something that the submissive doesn't like, and it hurts the submissive, obviously. Like maybe it's like unbearable, or maybe it causes like pain or something. You at least need to let, or at least have that written down, or known, is what I was just gonna say.
Yeah. And I do know some people who have no limits, but it's not something they start off with right off the bat. It's something they have grown into with a partner they trust. And I've found that, like, as slave, as submissive, as somebody on the right side of the slash, the bottom side of the slash, like, even those that say, yeah, I don't have any limits, like the submissives and slaves who say, I don't have any limits, there's still limits in their relationship, because they have vetted out and they know the person they are playing with, and that person has limits. And so what it really is it's, I trust that my partner whom I have played with and I have vetted out will only do things that align with the way he thinks, and I align with the way he thinks he or she or they think as well.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, this is it for the cursor for the everything that's wrong with your BDSM limits list and how to fix it. So that one was a little bit heavy, but limits once again are essentially everything, or at least one of the pillars, I feel like, of BDSM.
Exactly. I just want to take a quick minute and read the very last paragraph. I really like it here. It says, well, I hope that you've learned that your limits list is a snapshot of the whole you, and not just the parts that are hot and kinky and fun. What I want you to do right now is get your limits list out and review it. Take some time getting to know yourself and make sure that it's a fuller picture of what you want and need, and what you won't do, no matter how high pics fly. I like that. You should definitely make your limits list more than just a one-dimensional sheet of paper. Make it all about you.
Agreed.
Oh, I like that one. The other one, I guess we probably should have maybe started with this one. This one is domselfliving.com. It doesn't tell me who's written the article. Let me scroll back down to make sure I see it. No, there's no name on the article, so it's just the blog itself. But it asks, why have limits? Edwin, why do you have limits in BDSM?
Why have limits? Because there's no point in driving your car if, one, you don't know how fast it can go, two, if you could actually stop, and three, if there was no actual traffic signs to tell you what to actually do. So BDSM, or what limits are, basically confine what you will do and what you won't do. And to me, why it's important to have limits is because if you don't have limits, you really don't have any rules to play by. So
Exactly.
I can't just take, let's say I'm cooking, some bacon or something. I can't just take that hot, my hot spatula and just stick it, down my, submissive shirt, unless you like stuff like that. But obviously, like there's limits. Like maybe it's you can only, play, during these certain nights, or maybe we only save any type of like play for the dungeon and maybe the bedroom. But limits are always good because they tell you it basically keeps everything safe. Limits and negotiations, they all go hand in hand. And once again, safety is everything. And it's like one of those things where if you want things to keep going well, you need to know what you can and can't do.
Exactly. I like what you said. I'm just going to add one point on why I have limits is because, especially as a submissive, my life is important, and so is my safety. And especially if I'm doing pickup play or I'm vetting out a relationship, still, the only one who's really going to be looking out for me is me. And if I'm not able to verbalize those limits and what I want, then even now in a relationship, Master and I have been in a relationship for almost 4 years. Even now, if I'm not able to verbalize what I want and what I don't want and what is currently a limit, then my safety is compromised and I can't properly play. So.
Yeah, I mean that I would see why it's it's important for you, because once again that fits into like your day-to-day dynamics. It's you're always doing something, or maybe you want to try something new. Once again, you have to know your limits essentially.
Exactly. And then there are two kinds of limits. One's a soft limit and one's a hard limit. Soft limits to me are things that I'm interested in, but I'm a little nervous and anxious to try and explore. Some of them, and sometimes something I really love, depending on my mental state and where I'm at physically, will become a soft limit. It's one of those things of like, especially with Master, I'll be like, I enjoy that, but right now that's a soft limit because I'm not mentally in a space where I think I can properly do that or properly take care of that or handle the pain, whatever it may be.
Oh, agreed. I mean, the examples kind of like make it known. It says some examples of soft limits would be, let's say, oral sex, swallowing semen, nipple clamps, spanking, flogging, being blindfolded, butt plugs, gagging, wax play, and bondage with tape. Kind of like whenever I was growing up, like, I mean, some of the girls did and some of the girls didn't. Like, some girls like choking, some girls don't. There's, some of them had, reasons like, I just don't like the feeling of, something suffocating me, or, something like that. Or, some girls don't like, anything to do with the butt. Like, anal butt plugs, there is no anal, there is nothing like that. So, those are some examples of, soft limits, or at least some that I have, dealt with.
Exactly. Another soft limited, gives us an example below that is the tolerance of receiving pain. You can definitely work up your pain tolerance, but even I like to say I have a decent pain tolerance. Master and I play with impact. I enjoy it, but there are days where I'm like, I can only handle your hand. And sometimes there's days where I'm like, I can't handle anything at all. So sometimes those become a soft limit. But also it mentions something to think about with impact, just as a small side note, but think of for limits is, what kind of marks do you want? Do you want marks? Do you want no marks? Do you want Are you okay with permanent marks? Like that's also something that you kind of want to touch on and find out if it's a limit or not.
And then the second type of limit is hard limit, aka just will not do it. Says both parties need to specify what they won't do, and this is the biggest one: respect it.
Absolutely.
So things could be like choking, like I was talking about, anal sex, like I was talking about, electroplay, fisting, needles, suspension bondage, whipping, caning, fire play, and for some people, blood, urine, and feces. I can't do no doo doo. That's what it is for me. Like that's a hard limit for me, guys. I'm sorry.
And it says in here, doms can have boundaries too, and I'm going to change that. Doms should have boundaries too.
Agreed.
The point is, no one should be pressured to do something they are uncomfortable with. So, and then down below it states what I've been telling you. Limits can change over time, and some can be more fluid than others. There are some boundaries that I'm okay with. There's some boundaries that I don't have with Master, but I have them when playing with others. There's some limits that, like I was saying, sometimes my pain limit and my pain is a absolutely go for it. Sometimes it's a soft limit, sometimes it's a hard limit. They change and they're ever changing.
Agreed. I mean, for all of us, you don't know what's a limit until you either see it or you try it, and and you could think you like something and end up being a hard limit. You never know.
Exactly. Just like the story I told last week with Pua when she was playing with her partner.
Oh yeah, true.
She was like, "Yeah, I definitely want to try that," and then tried it. She popped up and was like, "Nope, definitely not," and they have never played with it again.
So. Left that in the old chest.
Yes.
So this I guess this kind of sums up everything that we're talking about tonight. It says what to do if your limits aren't respected.
Exactly. Sorry, let me scroll down. Which pages? What to do if your limits aren't respected? Like they say, it really just depends for me. It depends on is it really a one-time offense, or is it something that continues happening?
Yeah, agreed. The one time and it being actually talked about and fully I'm talking about fully talked about, like, hey, this thing hurt, blah blah blah, like, can we not use it anymore? It's like, yes, we'll just make sure that we keep it, blah blah blah, and we won't ever pull it out for play. Mm-hmm. But if it's like you're saying, a consecutive thing, oh Lord.
Absolutely. Even as I think it says in here, but even as a submissive, like if it's a limit that's continually pushed, or you are continually pressured to change, then that's a major red flag to me. That's a major no. I would really take a look at everything else that your dominant is doing to see if it's more than just that one thing, because likely it is.
Yep, true. You let him get away in one aspect, doing it in another.
Exactly, and same thing for dominance. If you have given a rule and you have agreed upon it, or you've given a limit and it's been agreed upon, then it's being ignored continuously, then that's something you should really take into consideration on whether or not you want to continue whatever dynamic you're currently in, be it plate partners, friends, dynamic, whatever. And that's actually, I'm glad that this article brought it up. That's actually one of the points I was going to bring up last week. One of my closing remarks is that if somebody, especially as you're negotiating and vetting out a person, if somebody doesn't respect your little boundaries, then they're definitely not going to be respecting your big boundaries and hard limits.
Agreed.
So
100%.
exactly. I have a friend who has a small boundary to her. It's definitely a soft limit to her, but she doesn't like touching. She doesn't like casual touch. She doesn't like hugs. She doesn't like people reaching up and touching her arm. And she says that if she finds somebody who, after she explains that, hey, I'm not a toucher. Let's stop, please. And they continue to ignore it because they think it's a silly boundary and a silly limit. Then she knows for sure that she's not going to continue associating with them. She's one of those people. She's like, as my friend, if you ask, then I'll consider it. And a lot of times I'll give you a hug or I'll give you a handshake. But she has a medical issue that any touch is extremely painful for her.
Oh.
And so, she doesn't go around telling people that. Be like, hi, I have such and such medical issue, and you touching me hurts. Like, it's none of their business. Especially as like somebody that's not playing with her, she obviously explains it to her partners and people she's playing with. But like, if she tells people, I'm not a toucher, let's not touch, and they continue to ignore that, then that's something to really take into consideration if you want to move to the next step. Because if they're ignoring that little limit, what else are they going to ignore?
Mm-hmm.
Or tell you that they forgot because they think it's a silly limit. So.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, I've had kind of run-ins like that, like just in, my personal life as well. Whereas I was at a friend's actually like birthday, and there was like this chick, and she was like, they were like, I don't think she likes to be touched, and like I wasn't even thinking about it, and like I'm so used to like, me, obviously, like, I respect people's boundaries, but sometimes like the regular me just kind of like actually comes out where I gotta actually like tap you to get your attention. Well, in this case, like I wasn't thinking and tapped the girl, and she just like made like this like wild gesture, and I was like, okay, I was like, I understand why. And she actually hadn't talked to me like since then. So like that's one of those things where you live and learn. Like obviously, like respect people's boundaries, and sometimes like even if you forget, things can happen. It's just kind of consequence. So respect it.
Exactly, and respect it. In that situation, like if you do forget a boundary, then obviously if it's a little one, apologize. Don't do it again. But if it's a big one, even if it's a little one, there's going to be some big consequences to that, and you need to respect the fact that those consequences are happening and are going to happen, and that you done messed up and need to fix it.
Yeah, and I mean where we're kind of going to, which is nice. We're kind of like slowly like going into negotiation there.
Yes.
Sure. So, do you actually want to like touch on negotiation, or just kind of like briefly give like your own, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Your own monologue of what of what? Okay. Let me see if I can put it into a question.
Description of what negotiation is?
Yes. What do you think negotiation is, and how it can help you be safe?
Okay. Well, to me, negotiation is a conversation I have with my partner where we are both at the same level of power. We are both equals, and we have a conversation about what is going to happen, whether it be in a scene, in a relationship, in wherever it may be. We talk about what we're going to be doing, what we're not going to be doing. If we're in a scene, what we want to feel like, what we want to what I want to be, like how I want to feel and what my goal is, like what my goal for the scene or for the relationship is. Like, that's a big one. And it helps me stay safe because at this point we have talked about my limits. We have, if it's pickup play, or if it's somebody new, we have talked about any medical conditions I may have that may flare it for this. We've talked about aftercare and what I need after a scene, and we've talked about a safe word and a safe signal to get me out. And we should have talked about like safety items as well, like if we're tying rope or we're playing in body bags, and for example, if we're playing in body bags and the zipper breaks, how are you getting me out of there?
Truth.
I want out. That knife. You have that knife, you have those safety scissors. Like, I want to know that we're playing as safe as possible with these risky kinks. And so we've had this equal conversation where I have been able to give my side and have my conversation without being looked down upon and ignored. Not that Master ever does that to me, but there are some people out there that think that just because you are on the right side of the slash means you're not as important and they don't have to listen to you. Don't play with those people. But there are those people out there.
True.
Yes. So yes, I think that by having a proper negotiation, you can proceed safely, or as safe as possible, into your scene.
I 100% agree. I mean, there's not really any way I can switch that definition for, what is, negotiation to you. Negotiation to me is one of the other, I would say, pillars of BDSM, where it's basically all for safety and to prevent injury or anything to go wrong. Negotiation, I think, is definitely like a one foot in front of the other type of thing. So I think a lot of people try and throw too much together at one time. And I mean, even though they claim they negotiated it, let's think about it. You really did negotiate it. So, like, if you know it's going to be more than just a DS relationship, actually, we can just start there. It's DS dynamic that you're going to do. Mm-hmm. And you want to, first kind of talk about what you have and what you haven't done. If there's any, tendencies that you have that you're trying to break, you should let your partner know that up front. Then you should actually make, your full-on limit list, which I will and which I won't do. Then you need to actually make a schedule on whenever you want to actually see this person, so it actually becomes a normal, consistent thing. If you don't, what happens is you'll notice that, like, you'll start to slack in other places. So there's no point in having a DS dynamic and also being in a relationship and also doing this, that, and the third if you haven't even started to actually, like, carve out the details of each aspect of it, or else there's going to be times where, y'all will be, we'll say at first you're kinking like, 3 or 4 times a week, and all of a sudden it goes down to 2, and all of a sudden it goes down to 1, and then eventually you're just not kinking anymore. Eventually it's just a relationship. Well, then you've lost a part of the relationship that, 1, that both of y'all enjoy, but 2, that y'all actually negotiated on. Mm-hmm. So negotiation just goes further than just like, I'm going to use this toy and that toy. I'm going to actually negotiate, okay, this is what I want, like you're talking about with the goals, Coco. This is what I want to happen, right? This is how we can better ourselves. And, this is, everything that we need to actually get this done. That's true negotiation, because at the end all be all, what you're trying to be is safe, or, avoid anything bad from happening. Negotiations definitely, like, I was talking about last week where I was talking about consent. It's everything else is like the pen, but consent are like the guidelines for the marker. So essentially in this case, it's kind of the same thing where, for safety, negotiation is definitely the boundaries, and then safety obviously is the marker. You'll start to notice that where you haven't actually negotiated is where the pen or the color is going to start to bleed out.
Exactly, that's really good points. And you, just like you said, you really want to negotiate what your dynamic is going to look like. Are you going to be doing kinky fuckery 4 times a week? Are you only able to see somebody once a week? Is it, I can see you around my job and my kid and X and Y? Is it you need to sit down and make sure you're on the same page with whoever you're having a relationship with, or having a play partner with, a scene with, or whatever it may be? So that's really what negotiation is. It's making sure you've vetted to make sure you're on the same page, but now you're negotiating to make sure you stay on the same page.
Agreed. So, that kind of. Wait, how much time are we at right now?
We got 1 hour and 7 minutes.
All right. We can just run. We'll just kind of end that article there. If y'all want to read some more, y'all are more than welcome to read the rest of that article. If we stick on this for too long, we're going to be here for 2 hours, and that's what I'm trying to
avoid. Absolutely. Yeah. I think we can probably just wrap it up with go to
the acronyms.
Yeah, the acronyms.
Okay.
So this is by Loving BDSM. I found out they actually have a YouTube channel. And so shout out to them.
Well, shout out to you guys. I'll have to do a review on like one of y'all's videos or something.
Absolutely.
So
I was watching one of them earlier. They were pretty good. I liked them. Anyways, they give us a breakdown of. There it goes. Didn't want to stay on the page. They give us a breakdown of, they call it safety in BDSM, understanding SSC, rack, and brick. This one's by Caitlin Lords. And it says, as much fun as BDSM can be, in or out of a DS relationship, it is also inherently risky. We fuck with each other's minds and bodies in ways that take us to the edge of our limits in our physical and mental comfort. Thinking about safety as a kinkster is extremely important. So, like I told you guys in what episode was it? Was it our first one? There are 3 acronyms. Yeah, there we go. 3 acronyms that are widely popular in the kink world. The most basic one in my mind, and also the most kind of ambiguous one, is safe, sane, and consensual, or SSC. Kayla says that for those of us in SSC, we ask ourselves 3 questions. Is our kinky thing safe to do? Is it a sane thing to do? Do we consent to it?
Yeah.
And I find it kind of ambiguous. She kind of says, both partners have to agree on what's safe and sane. But at the same time, is it safe to do knife play? Is it safe to do a single harness hang from your chest? Is it safe to do fire play? Like, is it safe to do impact play? I mean, not really. You're going to end up with bruises. So, is it a sane thing to do? Like, what defines sane? So I find this one to be kind of ambiguous.
I mean, I think we're all a little cuckoo already being in the lifestyle, so I think sane is already out the window.
Agreed. In fact, we taught my niece that, well, all of my nieces and nephews, that if somebody calls you weird, you take it as a compliment. But if somebody calls you normal, then it's a huge insult. You should be very offended. So I don't, maybe I'm not sane. I don't know. Again, I find it ambiguous, which is why although it is a good one, and especially as you're starting out, like, is it safe to do? No. Okay, well, what are the safety precautions that we're having even while doing these things? Again, the body bags. Do I have scissors or a knife to get me out? For knife play, is that a new knife? Who is that knife been used on? Is it sanitary? Is it sharp? Like, those are the things you want to know for the safety of the scene, even if you are participating in an inherently not safe thing. So
it's the little things, but at least it's small enough for you to at least like remember, SSC. It's like, oh, okay, safe, sane, consensual, and it's just like a quick like, okay, it's 3 quick questions to just ask yourself. So
exactly.
It's always nice to have that in the back of your head. But that kind of leads us into the second one, which is risk-aware consensual kink, aka RAC. RAC, or risk-aware consensual kink, was created as a response to those who felt SSC was too damn vague and confusing.
See?
Whose version of safe sane are we talking about? Like, what if I was thinking?
And I are on the same page here.
What if I think something is insane, but you think it's perfectly rational? Who wins the argument? Well, enter RAC, which lists things out a little bit more specifically. So, risk aware, basically, you're at risk, but I'd say it should go further than that. You should be able to name said risks and know how to prevent them. So that's kind of what we were talking about, is knowing what's going to happen, but also knowing how to stop it from getting out of hand. Consensual, everyone is on board with what you're about to do. So yes, all parties involved need to know what's going on, and all parties involved need to be like agreed. No questions asked. There shouldn't be any questions whenever you start playing. If you have to stop to ask questions, I don't think you negotiated well enough.
Agreed. All those questions should come up beforehand. And if it's something you're new playing at, if this is something new to you, then yes, there might be questions. However, if at least one of you is experienced in this, then there should definitely be no questions.
True. And then the last one obviously is kink, the thing, activity, power exchange, scene, or moment, or your kinky fuckery, as they call it. And just the last little tidbit on here with the rack is, if you're new to rack, but you like it, use it like a checklist. Can you name the risks? Are you both able to affirm that you consent to each other? And do you understand exactly what event or activity is about to take place?
Exactly. I feel like this is the one I use. Rack is the one I use most. Because I do like to know the risks. And I do like to know how to prevent them or how to take care of them if they happen. I definitely want everything to be consensual. Because non-consensual non-consent is not fun. That's illegal. And then I like kink. And I like to know exactly what I'm getting into. Most of the time. Sometimes it's a surprise in our scenes, but that's okay. We've negotiated that. So, the last one is personal responsibility, informed consensual kink, or prick. You're not a prick if you follow prick. She says, because I'm sure no one has ever heard that joke before. Am I right? Prick is the next evolution beyond rack. It was developed as a response to make it clear that all kinksters should take personal responsibility for their kink. Informed means or implies that you understand what is about to happen. Risks and all. Consensual kink is what we're all looking for. The idea being that if you take personal responsibility for yourself and you're informed, you can now have consensual kink. I like that too. I feel like rack and prick are very, very similar in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, they all, to be honest with you, they're all kind of the same thing.
Exactly. They're all expressing the same idea.
It's just however you remember it or what's easiest for you. So, well, that kind of wraps up safety.
Exactly. Or at least what we're going to talk on for safety this episode.
Yeah, we're not talking about safety of weapons of mass destruction. That's another topic.
That's another topic. But it's been a nice little teaser of safety and limits, and we kind of touched on negotiation.
Oh no, we did. I mean, we
did. Yes, we did.
We switched it. Yeah, we switched it a little bit just because safety kind of was the glue. You know what I mean?
It sure was. Safety followed all of it because if you don't know your limits, then you can't be safe. And if you don't negotiate well, then you're in for a possibly unsafe scene.
Yeah.
So,
and we talked about boundaries.
Yes.
So obviously respect those boundaries is part of safety. So
yes. There is all of these articles I've shown you and a couple more are linked in the description below, and we will make sure they are linked in other places, like on SoundCloud as well, since we're on YouTube right now. Any closing remarks, Edwin?
Oh man, look. Mine might be a little long. Just to kind of sum this up, I already said it was going to be like a heavy week, and like I'm telling you right now, like I've drained.
Yeah.
So that was a lot to just kind of like, go over, but not even just that, just to like, remember in your head. And I always say this too, is like, it's nice to have this podcast because even though I know these things, it's still nice to have them in your back pocket and say, okay, I went over this, like it's still something to look out for. It's like you do it automatically, but it's still nice to do, purposely as well.
Sometimes it's nice to have a little refresher.
Yep. Man, like this is a good one. It was nice seeing the negotiation lists and how long it was. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff on there, so I might have to actually try and go through it one day. I know it's a lot, but it's always good to have.
It is, and adapt it to your play, adapt it to what your scenes are going to look like and your limits. Just because it's out there doesn't mean that you have to follow it exactly. Everyone kinks differently.
Yeah, very true. I mean, I could probably shrink it too and put it in my own words, but just to sum it up, golly, wonderful like week, man. We are doing it, episode 6. Like, I'm happy. I definitely I feel like this was my hardest episode so far. Stumbled a little bit, but it's just because I had there's so much I could say. There is so much I could say about negotiation, safety, and limits, but once again, I told you guys in the beginning we're going to scratch the surface without going too far.
I think we barely scratched the surface.
Oh man, we didn't even get
some dust off of it.
It's true, 100%. But no, I'm excited for one, what we've done, and two, the show next week will be fire. It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot lighter, more laughs, more. I feel like it'll be more entertaining because we will have a special guest on. So that is also a podcast first. So yes. Oh man, I am stoked for that. Like I'm already getting excited. Like oh man. Not to say I wasn't excited for this one. It's just, once again, this was just like a lot of information. So it was like, I know it was probably draining for both of us. So, like I said, it's going to be a lot lighter. So, I'll be ready. I'll have my Coca-Cola ready as well. So, with that being said, for my final closing remarks, I know I've been kind of going on and on here, but people, if you're going to do something that is unsafe, you want risk management at all times. You want to make sure that whatever you are doing, the consequences to it, as well as how to prevent something bad from happening. Obviously, you don't go get in your car and drive without a seatbelt unless you do. But you shouldn't. Obviously, to kind of go to the extreme here, you would not buckle your child in. See what I'm saying here? So same thing, once again, there's no negotiations. Like there's certain things that you won't do. once again, it's not like you will not put a seatbelt on your child. There's things that you will do where it's a must where I will put a seatbelt on my child. So once again, negotiation and limits, they negotiation, limits, safety all go hand in hand. Once again, they're all for safety. They all prevent bad things from happening, and just make sure that as you keep an eye on your limit list, because like y'all were saying a lot, is it could change. It could change at any time.
Exactly.
So just know what they are and what they aren't. That's it.
Exactly. Those were some good closing remarks. I agree with a lot of that. I actually wrote down my closing remarks so I remember this time. I also agree that this was a difficult episode to do. I'm very passionate about negotiating and safety and knowing my limits, but trying to fit all 3 topics into one episode and keep it under 4 hours is difficult. We will definitely revisit these topics, but we just wanted to give you kind of a brief overview of what you should be looking for. A couple of things. First off, if you have negotiated a scene and you're in the middle of a scene, no one should stop and renegotiate.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't try to negotiate and then suddenly try to add something and negotiate it during that. That's a big no-no. Also, while you're negotiating, everyone has a voice and it is equal. I say that specifically to the submissives and to those on the right-hand side of the slash because we do give up power, and a lot of times people think they don't have a voice, but at that point, you have a voice, and your voice is just as important. It needs to be heard just as much as anybody else in the scene.
Yep.
And my last one just kind of touches on safety. And this one's more for those around you. Just remember that abusers, and this gets a little heavy. Sorry, guys, we're going heavy again. Abusers don't abuse everyone they know. So if somebody comes and tell you so-and-so is abusive, and you're like, oh, but they're the nicest person to be, way to stomp on somebody's trust. Joe Schmo could be super nice to me, helps me lift heavy things and moves things, and never does anything appropriate to me, but as soon as I'm gone and he's hanging out with Nancy Lou, they could be abusive. So just remember that if somebody comes to talk to you and says, hey, so-and-so's abusive, just take their word. Don't try to shame them for that. I was going to go more into that, but I will stop that there because, like I said, it is getting long, and we'll touch on that again later. But those are kind of my 3 topics and points I just kind of wanted to bring out right there. So, like Edwin said, I've got the schedule up here on the screen, and next week is going to be a lot lighter, a lot more fun. We are getting on one guest for both days, and I think one of her partners is coming on as well. I just don't know what day. So Pula will be here next week to talk about polyamory, ethical non-monogamy, threesomes, moresomes, all of that funness. So it'll be a lot lighter. There'll be stories, lots of laughs. So I'm excited for that.
Yep.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. It's gonna be a lot. It's
gonna be a lot lighter.
Yes. And then the next couple will be fun too. I still gotta study up though on that on the mentorship and the training because they still got me confused a little bit. I've kind of seen it, but there's too much in there.
Yeah, that one I don't think will be quite as heavy, but it'll definitely be okay, y'all, here's what's going on type thing. It'll definitely be information heavy.
Yeah.
So
I don't have any I've I haven't been in any like mentorships or like training, like that. But I can definitely maybe give like my view on it after reading about it or doing whatever it is. So
Exactly.
once again, we're not the pros on everything. We're learning just as much as you guys are. So
We sure are. We sure are. And I've got for that one for the mentorship and training. I've got a friend who's writing us out a kind of a statement since he works with mentor program, and I'm super excited about that. And I'm searching for some good articles. So super excited about that. Edwin, do you want to do our infamous plug?
oh yeah, ain't shameless no more, baby. Oh man, Dark Side Adventures. Of course, you can find this on the Reddit on Dark Side Adventures, all one word. You can find us on Twitter, which is DarkSideAdventures. You can also get us if you need to, send us. I'll leave a wait for that one. You can also find us on SoundCloud, Edwin and Coco, or you can just search for Dark Side Adventures. It'll pull up as well. And the last but not least, if you need any information from us, you want to send us any articles, send us an email. Good words, shit. We'll even take bad words too. We want the smoke. Yeah, we want the smoke. And just any ideas for the show. And like I always say, shit, you want to be on the show, you can send it to OurDarkSideAdventures@gmail.com. You can find us there all the time. We're always looking for more and more stuff to do. Obviously, like while being productive citizens, of course. But we do as much as we can, and there's a lot of things that I would like to do for the show, and that we are doing for the show. Both of us. So just kind of bear with us as we get everything ready, and we start to branch out and do more stuff.
Exactly. I hope you guys have seen a bit of an improvement as we go along, as we put more effort and more work into it. So we're about to sign off. This is Coco.
And this is Edwin.
This has been Dark Side Adventures.
Episode 6. Thank y'all for watching. And if y'all and just see us on Sunday.
Yay. Adios.